Today, we're talking about the different types of legal damages that you might be entitled to after an injury. I'm Natalie Gerry from Gerry Law. I help injured people get the compensation that they deserve for their injuries. Let's get into it today, talking about the different types of damages that you might be entitled to if you've been injured due to someone else's negligence. I should start out by saying that each legal action is distinct and different, and you do need legal advice based on your particular circumstances. So it's important that you reach out and get that advice from a lawyer who understands your situation, and I would be happy to discuss with you. My contact information is below. Let's start off with general damages. These are also referred to as non-economic loss or non-pecuniary loss, and these are related to less tangible things like pain and suffering and loss of enjoyment of life. These types of damages are typically quite difficult to calculate, and a judge will have a way of looking at the cases and looking at the facts of your situation and will make a determination based on the case law presented by your lawyer about what the level of general damages is that's appropriate in your case. Some common types of general damages. So some of the considerations are, as I mentioned, pain and suffering. So typically, people who are injured in an accident are entitled to receive compensation for the physical pain and suffering that they've endured and that they will continue to endure. Any ongoing pain will be included and will be taken into consideration by the judge, especially because in trials, a lot of times this is many years after the fact, and if you're still having pain and likely to continue, the judge will take that into consideration. The more pain and suffering there is, the higher the damages award is. It's important that your lawyer makes clear all of the different ways that you are still having pain or still not able to return to your life as it was before the accident. The judge will take all of these into consideration when assessing how much in general damages is appropriate. Injuries that are less serious will attract less amount of money in terms of general damages award. Another element that the judge will take into consideration or that can be negotiated about is psychological and emotional distress. Injured people will also be entitled to receive compensation for any psychological harm that they've suffered or emotional distress caused by the accident. Whether your accident has had a negative impact on your mental health or it's caused mental anguish along with physical discomfort and pain, you can claim damages based on those things. A few signs of emotional distress can be some things like depression, anxiety, PTSD, fear generally, lost sleep, stress. The court will also take into consideration emotional distress when considering the award for pain and suffering. Another type of damages that could be available in your case are FLA or Family Law Act claims, and these are claims brought by particular members of your family under Section 61 of the Family Law Act. So this is a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a parent, a grandparent, or a sibling of someone who has been injured or someone who has been killed in an accident. The victim's loved one, so the person affected by the accident, their family member can also claim for loss of care, guidance, and companionship, and they can seek compensation for the accident's impact. If they have a loss of companionship, then they could be eligible to make a claim for compensation. Also what's called loss of consortium, and this includes loss of companionship, affection, comfort, sexual relations, or sometimes the ability to bear children. All of these can be compensated financially, and it's up to your lawyer to raise these arguments for family members. Each accident is different, as are the issues in each accident, and that's why it's important to hire a personal injury lawyer who will assess all of these various issues. Other damages available in an injury lawsuit are aggravated and punitive damages. These are in particular more common in assault or sexual assault lawsuits, not usually available in negligence cases, but it could also be available against an insurance company if they persistently refuse to compensate you in a long-term disability claim. Then you could be claiming for aggravated or punitive damages for the breach of contract. Another type of non-pecuniary damages that you could be entitled to in special circumstances, usually assaults, where there's a criminal aspect that has to be punished, is punitive damages. So this is a type of damage that is very rare and is awarded by a court to punish the behavior of the defendant. So it is fairly rare in negligence cases. Punitive damages are different than aggravated, and their purpose is not to compensate, but to punish the defendant. Punitive damages in Ontario are very rare and are only awarded in the most exceptional cases involving conduct that is harsh, vindictive, reprehensible, or malicious in nature. Sometimes they're awarded in employment cases if the way the person is terminated is very harsh, or in sexual assault cases or other type of assault cases. Moving on now to pecuniary damages or monetary damages. So these are damages that are a little bit easier because they are more quantifiable. Sometimes there is a lot of math involved, which can be difficult for some of us lawyers, but usually an expert can be hired to project the cost going forward or to calculate the loss going back. So types of monetary damages are, for example, loss of earning capacity or competitive advantage or past wages. This type of damage has to do with a person who's injured no longer being able, since the accident or assault, no longer being able to earn the same kind of income that they were earning prior to. This shows that there was a loss of income because of what happened. These losses are calculated both from the date of trial going back, so past loss, as well as from the date of trial or cutoff going forward, which is future loss. If you've suffered injuries that prevent you from earning a living or from earning as much money as you did before the accident, then this is certainly an area that your lawyer will pursue in terms of compensation. The way that it's calculated is somewhat complicated. Usually an expert will be required unless it's a very clear cut and finite duration of time and you're just able to calculate based on a simple mathematical multiplication of amount lost times number of years. But usually it's a little bit more nuanced in that you don't know how long the injuries will persist, how long they'll affect the ability to earn income, and also there are some multipliers and future income discount that have to be applied. That's something to take into consideration and that the experts will take into consideration. Also, the experts will look at not just wages, but first, second, and then other supplementary jobs. Also bonuses, tips, retirement contributions, commissions, and perks and benefits offered by the company. These should all be factored into the loss. You can use as evidence tax returns, pay stubs, letters from the employer to verify how much was being made by the injured person, and then also this will help to quantify the loss. You may, when you're injured, also have a loss of housekeeping capacity. This is your ability to keep your house clean. If you were doing things around the house, even maintenance and that kind of thing, and you're no longer able to do it since the accident, this can include things like snow removal, salting, gardening, cleaning the home, laundry, dishes, grocery shopping, taking out the trash, basic home repairs, replacing light bulbs, tightening screws, repairing shelving, raking leaves, cutting the grass, walking the dogs, cleaning the eaves troughs, trimming hedges, dusting, vacuuming, mopping floors, wiping down mirrors, scrubbing the sink, washing down baseboards, and hanging Christmas lights. Tons of things that you might not even really think of, but that you do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and that you would no longer be able to do since the accident. There is a financial loss associated with that, because in order to have those things done, you would have to then pay someone. The Court of Appeal, the leading case on this, is McIntyre and Doherty, and they recognize that there are 3 different ways that you can suffer a loss of housekeeping. In looking at those 3 different ways that you can have a loss of housekeeping, the 3 ways are: first, that the plaintiff might leave some of the housework or other maintenance undone. Secondly, the plaintiff may perform some of the jobs that they did previously, but not to the same level. They may have pain and less efficiency in completing them, so it would take a longer time to do them. They may need to work more hours to do the same kind of housekeeping that they did previously. In this case, if a plaintiff is working inefficiently and they have pain while they're doing it, then their loss of housekeeping capacity would be reflected in their general damages for pain and suffering. In the third case, though, the plaintiff may rely on paid or unpaid third parties on a part or full-time basis to perform some or all of the housekeeping. The law is well established that where a plaintiff incurs this type of loss pre or after trial, the plaintiff can claim for a reasonable replacement cost for this type of homemaking or maintenance service. In looking at the burden of proof associated with this type of loss of housekeeping, it's interesting because it is not even the balance of probabilities, that level of proof that is required. For a future housekeeping loss of capacity claim, you're able to recover future expenses on a lower standard. The standard that the plaintiff has to prove their loss of housekeeping claim to is a substantial possibility. So this is a lower standard than is even the balance of probability. It's a substantial possibility of loss. That makes it such that this is a head of damage that should be claimed if there is a loss there. Another type of pecuniary loss or financial loss that a lot of injured people have suffered is a loss to do with their medical care costs. So this can be people who have to pay for physiotherapy out of pocket, that kind of thing. You may require that, or therapy costs going forward. So that's a damage that should be calculated into your loss. Injured people often sustain long or short-term injuries that require medical attention, and these can definitely be claimed, but you should not mistake the cost of the attendance at the doctor or the hospital for a cost that you can claim. Actually, in some instances, like slip and falls or assaults, the Ontario government, because they provide for medical care in Ontario, they also have a claim against the defendant. It's called a subrogated claim, where they are able to also obtain their cost of caring for the plaintiff. If though you do require physiotherapy, those bills going forward, you can claim for those costs. Also, follow-up appointments and bills associated with medication if you're paying out of pocket, or mobility devices if you're paying out of pocket, rehabilitation if you're paying out of pocket. All of these things can be claimed in a lawsuit. It's important to remember that you can also recover some of the damages from your health insurance provider if you have accident-related coverage. Another type of financial loss that you can recover is for property loss or property damage. If during the accident any personal property was lost or damaged, like clothes, if you tore them or got something on them because of the accident, you will be entitled to compensation for replacement or repair to those items. When dealing with a personal injury case, you can claim for both pecuniary and non-pecuniary losses, it is really important that you speak with a lawyer about your particular case and go through all of these different types of damages and bring them to your lawyer's attention. They should be asking you about it. But if you have any more detailed questions about your specific circumstance, I would be happy to chat with you, give you a little bit of advice. My contact information is down below, and please check out my other videos for more information.